Welcome to Talking Schmitz. I'm your host, Nate Schmitz. The goal of this show is to help you improve both mentally and physically. Enjoy the show.
Today, really wanted to talk about a topic that is pretty close to our hearts and something that we've been trying to work on in our own lives, and really want to just take a little bit of a deeper dive into it. But the topic of mindfulness and meditation. So mindfulness, I'm sure that has something to do with the mind. Am I correct?
It definitely does. And it often gets confused and conflated with meditation, and hopefully we can clear some of that up today. We'll go with the oversimplified but very helpful definition of it's an intentional practice of bringing your awareness to the present moment. Essentially, you could look at a tree and just be mindful of the tree, or be mindful of your thoughts, or the sensations in your body, or any number of things. But just bringing your mind back to the present moment is general rule for mindfulness, rather than contemplating the past or the future.
It sounds simple when explained that way, but is tougher in practice and even just in life. I mean, I hear that all the time and it sounds good. Like, bro, you got to be present. Your mind is off who knows where. You got to just be in the now. Live in the now. All these different things I've read on motivational posters and memes at one point.
Oh, yeah, and there's truth to them.
But it is hard to conceptualize and sort of like put that into practice of trying to be, aware of yourself in space, and even more philosophically, like in this life and on this planet. Now I'm freaking myself out. I can't even.
Yeah, those ones you're getting into, we'll call it the different loads of mindfulness, just like most people don't start off squatting, 500 pounds. You can't really start your mindfulness journey with,
I can't squat 500 pounds.
Yeah, what is my place in the universe? That's going to stress you out more rather than bring you a sense of peace or calm. So hopefully we can go through that today as well, kind of scaling your mindfulness and meditation, as opposed to hearing those things online or seeing the memes where it's like, be present and it solves everything. And everyone's like, well, how do I do that?
I was hoping I would find my purpose in the universe today. You promised.
Well,
but before we get there, true, that, and it goes back to mindfulness being a practice, even a skill. And it being a skill, it's something that we can work on over time to improve our level of mindfulness.
Oh, yeah. And that's one of the most powerful mental tools and switches for anybody, because we'll look at some guru or, whatever their title happens to be for mindfulness. And one, they're human, so typically they're exclusively showing us their good moments. Thank you, social media. So here's me at perfectly calm and meditating. But they're human, and so they've also tripped up thousands of times and, cussed people out or just done anything that any human does. But generally, you're not going to see that video. Like, here's me trying to be mindful and punching a kitten in the face. Like,
have you ever been flipped off by a monk in traffic? Or get cursed at by a friar?
A friar. That'd be cool to see a friar.
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
But I have, in different, contexts met different people who are supposed to be, men of God or of peace, and then they've been very frustrated and human. And so here's your reminder that, they're human too. We're all human. And so they're still doing a daily practice to get better at mindfulness. And so give yourself that same grace and realize it is just a practice. And then over time, it becomes a lot more easy and beneficial.
Agree that we can be more kind to ourselves as far as practicing mindfulness. And that's part of the fun of it, is that there's ways to improve it. And one of those ways is through meditation.
Correct. Yeah, that's the big differentiation. Meditation is the easier step to get into a mindfulness practice because it's an intentional practice towards mindfulness. And there's all sorts of different forms of meditation, from breath work to different active meditations to different, you can call them thought experiments. And hopefully we can now differentiate for people that mindfulness is just practicing being present, and meditation is generally a intentional mindfulness practice, rather than just both of them being the same thing.
Right. So meditation can be this path that we can use, and these tools that we can use to improve our mindfulness. What I love about this is that it also leads to these physiological benefits in the brain that we do get. For example, it's been shown in many studies that mindfulness practices are very effective for like acute and chronic pain control. Really just being able to focus away from things like pain and be able to, focus more in the present moment. It's also been shown to be very helpful for things like mood disorders and anxiety disorders.
Assuming, because a lot of the people who promote mindfulness and meditation tend to be associated with the woo-woo side of things. And so it's really easy to disregard the benefits. But now that you've heard that on scans and different studies, there's literal physiological benefits, then hopefully that gets you at least considering, hey, maybe I should start a mindfulness practice because it can help me improve my life greatly and in a measurable manner, rather than just going, do I feel better today? Do I feel worse today? Which is generally harder to measure.
Yeah, and we have scientific proof that we can have these objective improvements and measurements that show progress, and it's not all psychological woo-woo in our head.
Correct.
Type thing.
Even though there is some benefit to, we'll call it the placebo effect, where just by believing something will work, it tends to have a more positive outcome. And that one's a really cool thing. But for a lot of us out there, whether or not we assume we're open-minded, we're generally incredibly skeptical. And so, which is a good thing. And so being able to see that it improves, not motor control, emotional regulation, it improves thinking patterns, it improves and grows different regions of the brain. It's like, oh, okay, so there actually is some solid foundation for me to attempt this. And then that hopefully gives you more confidence in your attempt, as well as the capacity to push through the initial doubt that you're going to have when trying anything new.
Yeah, and the more that you're able to, try these new things, your brain does become more resilient and is able to create more pathways to help with things like habit formation. And we can just create this positive snowball effect. And not only does that work for lifting and nutrition, but also for mindfulness too.
Oh, yeah. And just by pushing through, that's another region of the brain, which is the, for short, ACC. It literally grows larger every time you push yourself to do something a little more than you think you can. And so you're growing a region of the brain that helps you to become stronger in the sense of willpower. And so being able to apply that area to each new endeavor makes you better at attempting new things as you continue to try new things, which is a wonderful area to be strong in. Almost, we'll call it the abs or muscle of the brain, if you will.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Now you got me.
Oh, yeah. Get that six-pack mind.
But certainly if we can build our willpower, then that will bleed into everything else in our life, because willpower can be there when we're not motivated to eat well or to work out, or then having that extra willpower to do the things that we want to do and to achieve our goals. Very useful.
Oh, yeah. That one will be more apparent, especially over time, and therein lies the challenge for a lot of things in life. But it will compound greatly over time to the point where you may not even notice it until 6 months down the road, to when something that normally would have turned you away, you just naturally push through without really any effort. And then because you've been practicing mindfulness, you go, I just did that without having to force myself to do that. that is really cool.
It's an epiphany.
Yes. And thus another advantage to, we'll call it the mindfulness. You become more aware of your own successes. And it's...
And your shortcomings, which is a
Yeah.
little sucky, but
Shh, we're trying to motivate people right now. No, it is important to become aware of both sides of that. And like anything, we'll go positives and negatives. But when you're more effective at identifying your shortcomings, you're going to be more effective at overcoming them as well. And so it's still an all-around win.
agreed.
But yeah, there's some of that natural discomfort at realizing the things you suck at.
Yeah, I would argue that self-awareness is more helpful than self-love or self-esteem.
Well, that's where, to a degree, it's a more genuine form of self-love because of our conditioning / tendency to go towards pleasure rather than pain. We assume that things that bring us pleasure is a form of self-love. That is one of the first steps towards becoming self-aware and realizing that's not the case. Because truly caring about yourself and, say, your long-term goals and things you genuinely desire is going to take a bit of introspection and more objectivity at looking at yourself.
Speaking of self-awareness, how much time have you spent meditating in this past week?
I average 20 minutes a day at this point. And so since we're
Whoa.
this many days
That's so
into
good, Nate.
the week, thanks. We'll go, that's 100 minutes so far. And it's now I've done it so frequently that the moment I miss a meditation, I'll notice the difference in my day. It's quite profound. Before it was kind of, it doesn't seem to be doing too much. But now that I've done it for as long as I have, with the ups and downs, oh yeah, it's a profound impact on how good I feel about the things I do with my day, the things I get done with my day, as well as honestly quieting the overly critical inner critic that I'll have on a regular basis as well.
A little devil on your shoulder?
Oh, 100%.
Telling you that you're fat?
Fat, stupid, all those things. Not good enough. Rather than believing that, understanding it's just a form of criticism, and when used properly, can help to keep you motivated rather than demotivate you. And it's not always true, which is the other thing that mindfulness helps, because your inner thought will be like, wow, you suck. And then you can calm that, distance yourself, and then go, do I suck? No, I got this, and this done. So actually, shut up, inner critic. Mm-hmm. I'm awesome. And then, whoa. As opposed to just our autopilot, for most people, we tend to just believe those thoughts that we're ugly or fat, even though sometimes it may be true, but we don't have to keep believing it, and we can put effort towards improving rather than just accepting it as our fate.
Agreed. And the fact that you meditate for, on average, 20 minutes a day is fantastic. And a lot of people listening might just be interested in learning how they can implement more mindfulness practices, maybe not as experienced in things like meditating. I know myself, I'm just only starting to get more into it recently. I'm not even close to doing the amount that you're doing. Do you have any favorite meditation practices that you like to do or think that could be helpful for beginners?
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful question. And I do have quite a few favorites, but the one I've found most effective as a recommendation and starting point for most people is, you've probably heard it on all those things, on the memes and the pages, but breath work. Breath work is
Breathing.
Profoundly impactful, because if you're listening to this, you're breathing, so you already know how to breathe, and we can just give you the tweaks to make it that much more impactful for you.
That's true. The barrier to entry is quite good.
Yeah.
It's in your favor, as long as you have lungs.
Yep. Well, yeah, there's some people with one lung, but they're still breathing. So as long as you have a lung...
I'll correct myself. As long as you have lung, then you can start to meditate.
Yep. There's so many different options. Start with as simple as you can do, and that's where, rather than hearing, hey, Nate does 20 minutes a day, I should do 20 minutes a day. If you've never practiced it, do 1 minute. Just aim for 1 minute a day. See if you can then get that 1 minute 3 days a week. And then if you can do the 3 days a week consistently, then go for 5 days a week. And if you can do the 5 days a week, go for all 7 days. And it's literally just 1 minute out of your day. And once you hit that 7 days a week mark, you're already doing phenomenal progress. And so give yourself a pat on the back. Don't think you're stupid for only doing a minute. And then you can start to really reinforce your breath work and extend the time.
I do think I can breathe for a minute.
Yep.
So
And
that sounds reasonable.
hopefully.
Any particular ways that we can practice breathing? Because I've heard of a lot of different breathing techniques, and it's quite fascinating how much we can put into how we breathe.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of different ones. One of my favorite that kind of uses our body's capacity to distract itself against itself is the one hand on your chest, one hand on your stomach, belly breathing. And this one you can do seated, lying down, and essentially whenever you can take a break. And again, it's only a minute, but the whole goal is to inhale through your nose as deeply as you can and exhale through your mouth. And hopefully you'll feel your stomach lift before your chest does.
Yes.
And then you know you're hitting the ideal form, and you just do that for a minute and work towards 6 breaths a minute, and you have already achieved a wonderful exercise for calming the nervous system and relaxing and calming the mind, and with just a minute.
Definitely. Yes, if you're able to inflate your belly, then you're better able to use your diaphragm and have diaphragmatic breathing. Hello. But breathing, which is a more efficient way to breathe for performance and for regulating your mood and anxiety. And also just physically touching your chest and your belly. That's also a form of grounding that also brings that self-awareness back to your own body and back to yourself, bringing it around back to mindfulness and the whole point of the mindfulness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're using multiple of your senses at once to breathe, which makes it a lot more difficult for your brain to wander, as it will tend to on a moment-by-moment basis. And thus the mindfulness practice of the breath work. You're using your body's multiple senses to keep you in the present moment with your breath.
Right, because this whole time, when we're breathing and we're doing deep belly breathing, for example, what are we thinking about?
Hopefully, just the breathing. But you'll notice at times, as you become more aware of your thoughts, that you'll be thinking about tasks you have to get done or things you could have done better. And then you realize your brain is, to a degree, constantly solving problems or creating them rather than being present, which is another great stage and growth for self-awareness. And if you can just focus on the present, it's amazing how much that calms the mind and reduces a lot of the anxiety and depression that you may or may not feel because your brain's no longer in control of sending you those thoughts.
Yeah.
You're slowly but surely taking control of the direction your brain is headed.
And if you're better at breathing skills like this, it's almost impossible to be doing a breathing exercise like this and to be anxious and having a panic attack simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Later down the road, once you have mastered any of these breathing techniques, or at least gotten proficient, your body and brain will build an association with these breathing techniques that you can then use in high-stress situations to calm yourself so that you make more present and better decisions, which is a really cool benefit later on, rather than being in a really panicked state for delivering a presentation or, approaching someone that, you've had a crush on or interview.
If your boyfriend proposes to you, don't answer, excuse yourself, go to the bathroom, and do some deep breathing exercises. You'll better be able to make a decision that you'll be happy with.
Very true. Not one it'll make your boyfriend very, very nervous. And then hopefully he listens too. And then while waiting for your response, because he's so anxious, we'll do the same breathing exercises.
That's right. He can do box breathing. You do deep belly. And if that's how it works out, I think you should get married.
Oh, yeah. That's a great, we'll go, not necessarily value to share, but it's a great thing to have in common that you both want to have some semblance of self-regulation. And that's a wonderful goal to have for each person in the couple. But you mentioned the next one, clever you, on terms of breathing techniques, which is another favorite of mine, which is the boxed breathing. Simply put, you pick a time, start with maybe 3 to 4 seconds, but you'll do a 3-second inhale, 3-second hold, 3-second exhale, and a 3-second hold, thus creating the box or square. And that is another form of breath work, learning to regulate your breath control.
Yeah.
And again, you're doing all this nasally. And it does another form of slowing your breath, which calms you. It takes a little more effort to a degree, but boxed breathing does generally reap a few more rewards physiologically and mentally. Thus it being kind of the next progression, if you will. Or if you're already courageous enough to try it, go for boxed breathing because it's a phenomenal tool in terms of breath work.
Yeah, I like to switch between the first two, just because the box breathing has been able to help me more with staying focused and helping to calm down. And it's hard to remember the boxed or square breathing. You can visualize creating a square with each breath and tracing it. You can even do this with your finger on a table or even on your palm. You can draw a square as you do the breaths. That would be another form of grounding and also help you to refocus back on the meditation practice.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, I'm glad it's helped out so much.
Doing these things, you're purposely being more mindful, but also decreasing your respiratory rate. By decreasing your respiratory rate, you are calming yourself, and you're telling your brain that everything's going to be okay and to be more relaxed and less anxious.
Oh, yes, which has so many benefits other than, say, just mentally being less anxious. But one of my favorite uses that I try and recommend to people once they have it down is utilizing, say, the deep belly breathing or the boxed breathing before you eat a meal, because you're putting your body in a state of relaxation, so you're actually going to get more nutrition out of the meal. You're in what's been dubbed rest to digest state rather than eating in an anxious state, and so your body is going to get more out of every meal just by taking some breaths before each meal, which is very, very cool.
And that's a clever way to incorporate the meditation in your day-to-day practice, because most people eat during the day. So if you pair your meditation 1 minute practice before your meal, then there you go. If you always did it before dinner, for example, then you can already get started on a healthy habit for your mind.
Try it out. As always, let us know how that feels. With that dinner one, if you like it doing that calming breath can also be utilized right before bed to help you fall asleep with more ease.
Very true. Which goes back to your parasympathetic nervous system being more activated by these breathing practices, which, like you said, the rest and digest, so that goes for your sleep, and that goes with being able to get the most out of your meals.
Mm-hmm. And we'll go top off the breathing. It's not necessarily expert level, but you can consider yourself an expert. It's the 4-7-8 breath. And so if you can already do, say, the 4-second inhale, this one is a great one to upgrade. And you'll inhale through the nose for 4 seconds. You'll hold your breath for 7. And then to really increase the function of your diaphragm, as well as further calm your central nervous system, you'll let out that 8-second whoosh, or you can kind of if you want to. And just by having that, it'll actually start to activate the calming on your vagus nerve as well. So it's an even more impactful form of breath work.
Right, even having that audible whoosh at the end of it. Very calming, brings you back to center focus, and incredibly effective for terminating an active like panic attack, for example, or just bringing you back to a mindfulness state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing what you can do to realize the control you have over a lot of your responses that you were just thought automatic. And that's one of the most liberating things in taking on this challenge is, wow, I don't have to be as anxious as I thought all the time or as worried as I thought all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can calm yourself and feel the calm and then go, oh, okay. Again, it's not a cure. Some things are still just going to suck.
Sure.
But anything that helps it suck a little less is usually quite welcome.
True, and if you have a severe panic disorder, anxiety disorder, do seek help from a medical professional.
Definitely.
But these practices are definitely very important. We're not saying it's the only answer, but very effective. Next time you're in a state of worry or in a fight or flight worried state, or you just feel like your mind's racing, and if you just pay attention to your breathing, you'll probably notice that you're breathing very fast, you're breathing shallow breaths, you're breathing more through your chest and not your diaphragm. So by doing the breathing exercises, we're essentially working things backwards mechanistically in the body, so that by doing the breathing exercises, it literally tells our brains to then relax and go back to a more homeostatic state.
Oh, yes, which is nice. And the more you practice, the more impactful it will be, just normally as well as in those states of high anxiety. Once you've gotten proficient with any of these breathing exercises, doing it daily, and again, you don't have to stop at the 1 minute. You can go upwards of, as long as you want, but save yourself time. So maybe, pick a 5 to 20 minute range as opposed to, wow, if more is better, I'm going to do 2 hours of breath work. While that may be for some, don't think you have to do that. But once you have gotten that sense of impact from the mindfulness of just purely breath work, another wonderful transition is to start to do what's called body scanning.
Body scanning.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not going to the gym and checking out all the bodies at the gym before anybody even thinks that one.
Oh, okay. Then I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. That one, that form of body scanning doesn't tend to suppress anxiety. It tends to get the heart rate up.
Oh.
So this one is your own personal body scanning. As you practice, say, the hand on the belly and chest, or noticing your heart rate, or really feeling that breath, you become more aware of the different things on your body. As you start to feel those things, you can start to essentially think about the different parts of your body and start with the bigger parts first, i.e. your legs and your chest and your back and your arms and your head. And then once you feel more comfortable scanning those parts, that's when you can start to, scan individual fingers or, your elbow or your knee and just all the smaller, more minute parts, to where you can even go to try and feel individual hairs on your hand if you really wanted to. That's some pretty intense stuff, but your brain is very capable of it, and it's very cool. And this one becomes more impactful in terms of, we'll call it gaining even more control over your monkey or lizard brain, depending on which animals you like more, or hate more, just whichever one works for you. But a lot of us, especially in today's day and age, it's a competition for our attention. And if we gain control over where we can put our attention, we gain more control over our brains, our decision making, over our lives as a whole. Because you can rein in all your worrisome thoughts or all your anxious thoughts, or even, as you mentioned earlier, the sensations of pain that are in our body.
And that can be part of the body scan as well, going from a toe to head technique, starting from the big toe, going from the toe, slowly moving up the body to your feet, knees, the breathing in your chest, the noticing if any parts feel nice, if you feel pain, and just noticing it and just being an observer of the sensations in your body. And that will accomplish all the things that we've been talking about.
Oh, yeah. It becomes another mental anchor, if you will, to bring yourself back into the present. So when you find your heart racing or your mind racing about the past or the future, you can just start noticing your body. And without even doing, say, the breath work, you'll start to notice your breath slows because you're no longer stressing yourself out with thoughts about the past or the future. You're back into the present going, how does my finger feel, or my knee, or whatever part of your body?
Whenever I'm worried about finances, I just refocus to my glutes.
Nice.
And then life just feels a lot better. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. And then this is what's leading towards my favorite form of meditation, and not necessarily the 20 minutes that I do a day. When I'm at the gym, active meditation.
Active meditation.
It's just the coolest thing ever. I didn't realize it until much, much later. And this is where you'll start to embrace the bro idea that the gym is your therapy.
We can implement things like mindful walking or mindful weightlifting. So let's take lifting, for example. What's the difference between if I go to the gym and I'm just going through the motions of trying to get the workout over with and move some weights around versus like lifting in a mindful manner?
Well, generally, and we don't even understand all the mechanisms, but you're going to get strength gains faster. You're going to develop better muscle. You're going to develop better mind-muscle connection, so better motor control. You're going to develop better motor awareness. Like it just, by being present and feeling the movements, you're going to speed up the results you get in the gym over almost anybody else who's just kind of mindlessly doing the movements. Both people will get results if you're doing, 50 squats in the gym. But the person who uses it as a form of focus and anchoring, it becomes a more positive stress on the body rather than just purely beating up the body. Because you're actually moving, even though it will spike your heart rate, with more intention, and so your heart rate recovery will actually improve as well. It's very, very cool.
Right, in between sets, you can use the breathing techniques to get to a resting heart rate sooner so that you can be replenished for the next set. You can use the body scan technique to really have that mind-muscle connection, really feel the bicep when you're doing a curl. All of these things will lead to the benefits that we're talking about. And if you already want to go for walks and you're already going for workouts, then trying to turn it into a mindfulness practice and looking into how to better do that would make a lot of sense. And it would really pay dividends.
Oh, yeah. And again, for any real big fans of the gym or body transformation, it really is we'll go muscle mindfulness, which is really, really cool. I can't impress that one on people enough. That's part of why it's my favorite. So it's like extra mindfulness without as much effort once you've put in that initial effort. So you're getting even more time where you're mindful.
You sound like you have an extra brain in your abs, like Krang. Like, I'm really working the brain and my muscles.
Oh, it's amazing. It's one of those ones even later when people, not to scare people, but injuries and things are unavoidable when you decide to exercise. But as you practice mindfulness with your exercise, the severity of the injury is greatly diminished because you'll feel strains in your whatever muscles you're working way sooner than you otherwise would by just trying to purely push through the pain and tough it out. Because then you're teaching your body to ignore signals rather than being mindful of them. And so that mindfulness practice becomes one of the greatest injury preventatives ever.
Protects you from injury, helps you get stronger, makes the workout more enjoyable ultimately as well.
Oh, yeah. And everyone likes better results, and it's the least expensive thing you can add to your workout to get maximum results.
Yeah, and it doesn't even take any extra time to implement these practices into the workouts that you're already doing.
As a reminder, so that everyone kind of is on board with it, we want to sell you on just how amazing it is. Remember to start with what you can do. Start small. So start with that 1 minute a day. And once you've done one day, aim for that 3 days a week. Then after a couple weeks, 5 days a week. Then after a couple more weeks, 7 days a week. Once you have that foundation of daily breath work, mindfulness walking, whichever one you choose, because you don't have to go in any particular order, then you can start to scale it up to, 5 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. And then you can go, you know what? I want to try that active meditation that they were talking about and start to do it on your walk, even when you're dancing, rather than just purely getting lost in the music, which can be fun. If you start to feel your body during a dance class like Zumba or something, or even it's one of the huge benefits that people don't realize they're doing with yoga. You'll start to go, oh, this makes more sense. But remember to scale up in that manner. Don't just go, oh, they said it was good. I'm going to aim for 20 minutes a day, and then just set yourself up for your own disappointment.
And as you're scaling this slowly, pay attention to how are you feeling during the week? How was my mood over this past week after I implemented this meditation practice? How are my relationships? How are my productivity? And you should notice that the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it, just like anything that's worthwhile. So that'll further motivate you and reinforce the positive benefits that we've been touting and celebrating about the beauties of mindfulness and meditation.
Yes, and in keeping track of those things, you're also cultivating what we mentioned earlier, which is that self-awareness. And it's amazing what that does to transform your life.
Yes, sir. So we implore you all, go out there, look up meditation, get an app if that helps you, and try to be a little bit more mindful.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Talking Schmitz. Remember to subscribe, leave us a review, and share us with your friends. Your support helps us reach more people and continue bringing you quality content. You can find us on Instagram at talking_Schmitz, and we'll catch you next time.